In a large bowl, sift together flour, baking powder, salt, baking soda, and sugar. Using a pastry blender, cut the cold butter-flavored shortening into the flour mixture. Using a handheld grater, grate the cold butter into the mixture, tossing occasionally. Add buttermilk to the flour mixture and stir to form a wet, sticky dough. Lightly flour your work surface and dump the dough onto the flour. Sprinkle the dough with flour and use your hands to knead and fold the dough. Fold the dough over several times, creating layers. Pat the dough into a 1-inch rectangle. Dip a biscuit cutter in flour and cut the dough into 15 biscuits. Just press the cutter down into the dough and resist the urge to twist the cutter. Place biscuits on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Lightly brush each biscuit with cold mayonnaise. Bake for 14 minutes or until the biscuits are golden brown. Brush with butter and serve warm.
The recipe starts with ingredients you probably have around the house: flour, milk, yeast, butter, and sugar. Start by dissolving the yeast in the warm water. Allow the yeast to bloom in the water, which means it starts to get a little foamy. It should take about a minute. Melt 1 tablespoon of butter, then whisk it together with the brown sugar and salt and combine with the yeast. Transfer to a mixing bowl and add 3 cups of flour, one at a time. Mix with a wooden spoon or with the dough hook of a stand mixer. The dough will be sticky. Add 3/4 of a cup of flour to the dough, and maybe a little more until it is no longer sticky. Turn the dough out onto a floured surface and knead for a few minutes. Place the dough into a greased bowl, cover with plastic wrap and allow to rise in a warm environment until doubled, about 1 hour. Once the dough is risen, punch it down to release any air bubbles. Then turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface. Take a sharp knife or pizza cutter and divide the dough into 12 sections and shape into balls. Preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Then combine the water and baking soda in a large pot and bring to a boil. Drop 1 or 2 pretzel balls at a time into the boiling water for 20 to 30 seconds. This is when pretzels get their distinctive flavor and texture. But do not let them boil longer or they will develop a most unpleasant metallic taste. Using a slotted spoon or spatula, lift the pretzel balls out of the boiling water. Place the balls on a prepared baking sheet, close together so the sides will be touching. Using a sharp knife, score the tops of the dough balls. Melt the rest of the butter and brush it onto the rolls. Then dust with the coarse salt. Bake for 22 to 26 minutes, or until they are a nice golden brown on all sides.
The last time you went to Texas Roadhouse, did you try the amazing Texas Roadhouse rolls and butter? From the moment the basket is placed in front of you, accompanied by their delicious cinnamon honey butter, you realize how delightfully dangerous they really are. You would probably love to know how to whip up your very own batch in the comforts of your kitchen. Today is your lucky day. Happily, these rolls are made with ingredients you likely already have, including yeast, milk, butter, honey, eggs, salt, and flour. And on the topic of making them at home, we do have some great news. You absolutely can. And you won't be able to tell the difference from the originals at Texas Roadhouse. These sweet and buttery rolls are fairly easy to prepare. The hardest part, waiting for the dough to rise. And yes, you have to do this twice. All your patience pays off in the end, though, especially when you put together the homemade cinnamon honey butter, which really is a must-have, as they pair with the rolls in a way nothing else really can. The work of kneading dough is therapeutic, and the scents that surround you as your creation bakes in the oven will make your first bite that much sweeter. We know it'll be hard to stop at just one, but this recipe will help you craft 24 rolls, which should keep you stocked for a few days at least. These would be great bring-alongs to a potluck dinner, or as a wonderfully doughy accompaniment to any meal you serve right at home. Don't wait for your next Texas Roadhouse trip to get your hands on some amazing rolls. Throw this recipe together while you stream some quality TV and enjoy your sweet rewards fresh out of the oven.
If you've avoided homemade rolls because of the effort most recipes require, you're going to love making our fuss-free cloverleaf rolls. So let's roll! First, proof the yeast. In a large bowl, combine the sugar and water, then sprinkle active dry yeast over the top. Let this mixture sit for 5 minutes so that the yeast can wake up and start feeding on the sugar. Add 1 cup of flour to the yeasty liquid and whisk until smooth. Beat in the salt, egg, and butter until the mixture is well combined. While the butter will tenderize the rolls as well as add buttery flavor. Add the remaining flour to the bowl and mix with a wooden spoon just until the flour is fully incorporated. Transfer your dough to a lightly oiled bowl and brush the dough with melted butter. Cover the bowl with a kitchen towel and refrigerate overnight or up to 2 days. The dough will double in size all by itself. Taking the time to form cloverleaf rolls is much more fun than tiring out your arms kneading dough. Divide your dough into thirds, then cut each third into 9 equally sized pieces. You now have 27 1-ounce pieces of dough. Use your hands to roll each piece into a ball. Each cloverleaf roll requires 3 dough balls. Prepare a muffin pan by lightly spraying 9 of the muffin cups with cooking spray. Place 3 dough balls into each of the prepared cups. Generously brush the dough in each cup with melted butter. Loosely cover and let the rolls rise until they double in size. This can take 45 to 90 minutes. Bake the rolls in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes, or until they are irresistibly puffed and have tanned into a gorgeous golden brown. Brush the finished rolls with more melted butter and sprinkle with sea salt. Serve these warm, buttery rolls fresh out of the oven.
Ready to make the best Thanksgiving biscuits you've ever put in your mouth? Add salt, garlic powder, black pepper, fresh rosemary, and shredded Parmesan cheese to the flour and stir. Pour the cream into the dry ingredients and stir just until a moist dough forms. Gently form the dough into free-form balls to give them a rustic biscuit look. Brush each biscuit with melted butter and sprinkle with extra freshly ground black pepper. More butter and black pepper means more flavor. Bake at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 minutes. And take your rosemary Parmesan drop biscuits to the table.
In a large bowl, whisk together flour, baking powder, baking soda, sugar, and salt. Grate a frozen stick of butter into the dry ingredients and toss gently until the flour mixture coats the bits of butter. In a separate bowl, combine the sweet potato puree and milk. Mix the sweet potato puree with the flour mixture and a sprinkle of rosemary and work together quickly. Dump the dough onto a lightly floured surface and flour your hands enough to prevent sticking. Use a rolling pin to roll the dough out to about 3/4 inch thickness. Use a sturdy, sharp edge cutter for lofty, symmetrical biscuits. Place biscuits on a parchment-lined baking sheet and bake for 15 to 20 minutes or until the biscuits have risen high and are golden brown.